Well, I think I really decided to retire. It's been on my mind for the last probably year, and we I was trying to get to a point. I think in order, if you've been at a job as long as I've been in this job, you cannot leave until you get to a point where you're comfortable about it. And so I had to get to that point, and I think it happened. I arrived at that point last May when we had our graduation, because the last graduating class was an outstanding class. I mean, it had a very high, the highest GPA overall, and we graduated more students by percentage from that class than in the history of the district. And so that was kind of like the last piece of the puzzle that and I had been working with my staff and working with Ms. Smith. We were trying to get the graduation rate where I felt very comfortable about it, because when I began here, the graduation rate was a meager 43%. And so that I wanted to get it to 70% to feel good about it. I think the state average is somewhere in the mid 70s with it. So if I could get it to that point from 43 to 70, I felt that I had made tremendous progress, and I felt like my mission was complete, because we had shown that we could get A schools, and we've had 5 A schools, 4 A schools. We've had A schools a number of years. I mean, from 7, 8. We showed that we could perform. So the last piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, was I needed to get the graduation rate up to a percentage that I feel comfortable about. And so when we began to calculate the numbers out and really got a chance to see it and was getting up around 70%, I said, I feel good about that.
So what is it?
It should be right at 70%.
Okay.
And so that was the last piece of the puzzle. And I felt like, we I had a strong team in place. We've had 5 A's a number of years, and we just that was the last piece of the puzzle. And so you have to make a decision at what point do you pass the baton. And so I feel like at that point it was time, and that the structure was solid. It may go up and down for a while, but it's solid. If it goes down, it'll spring back, because I think the leadership is solid. I think the teachers are dedicated. I think we have a good plan, and I think at this point, my work is done.
So, what is your actual plans now? I mean, you're announcing that you're retiring. So now, what is your plan?
Well, in terms of what I'm going to do, I'm so excited because I've been working a long time and I never had any real time off. So right now, I'm excited about an opportunity to do some of the things I haven't done before. I always promise the grandkids that we're going to take a pop-out trip. So I talked to them about it the other night. I said, we're all going to get together. We're going to take you on a trip. Just me and the grandkids. I have 4 of them. So they're getting older and they're excited. I told them to pick the place and we're going to have a great time together. So that, I used to love fishing. I haven't been fishing in so long. I wouldn't, it's just ridiculous. So I'm going to go fishing and do some of the things I've always loved to do. And, it's time for me to do those kind of things.
We talked a little earlier about your coming into this job and coming in motivated. Let's talk about that. What number one is, why did you want to be superintendent? And then what are some of the moments in the time that you've been superintendent that you think made some changes in the way things work?
All right. Sorry, I'm sweating a little bit. Well, I wanted to be superintendent. Okay. Well, what motivated me to want to be superintendent? Well, I felt like I can make a difference. I've been in the community doing things and working. I've been in education a long time. I'd worked with 2 superintendents close enough to kind of see what was going on. So I had an inside knowledge of the job somewhat. So I felt if given an opportunity, I could hit the ground running and make a difference. And I had a plan in mind that I wanted to execute. And a part of what I thought was a problem with our district, and why we had at the point, had so many failing schools, is that, there was a culture of failure. In order to break that, you have to work on the culture. And so part of my plan, which was called Building a Brighter Future, was dealing with that particular. A part of my plan was dealing with trying to change the culture of the organization. And in order to do that, you had to have a program that dealt with that situation. So when you have people, or you have an organization that's constantly failing, you have to understand it's more than structural or whatever. It's a culture of it. And so you got to try to deal with that too. So I wanted to figure out how to inspire the employees to give greater effort, to break that chain of the barrier of failure. So I dealt with a program called TESSA. It came out of California, called Teacher Expectations for Student Achievement. Everybody had to go through that training. It dealt with, building a culture of success. So we went from there to using data to drive instruction. I learned that from being on a committee with the commissioner of education back, where they were doing a study of why kids would not learn. And so I happened to be on this committee when they were studying the kids in Appalachia who were performing at the lowest end of the continuum. So they said, well, why can't these kids learn? Whether it's, just the aptitude, was not what that wasn't the case. What happened was the kids, they were they were not exposed to the concepts. Basically, they were just living in the root. They were not that the kids were not bright. They just were not exposed to the concepts. So they went in and aligned the curriculum so the kids could at least be exposed to the concepts that they're going to be tested on, and the scores went up. So I remember that. So I knew that once I got here, I had to make sure that at least the kids were exposed to the concepts that they were going to be tested on. So that's called aligning the curriculum. And so we had to have an alignment process. That's a part of the Building a Brighter Future plan. And we're going to use data to drive instruction. In other words, we're going to teach the kids basically the standards. We're going to test the kids on the standards. And if they did not pass, we're going to reteach and retest until the kids master the standards, because nothing is taught until something is learned. And what's monitored gets done. So you got to monitor it as well. So we had all those things that we were trying to put in place, and I was really determined to do it. And I felt if we could get those things in place, that we could get movement, and we were able to get it. And I started with a lot of prayer warriors. I want to say that too, because I'm a very faithful man. I believe in prayer. And I prayed. I had a special spot. I prayed every morning that I go into the house when bed is gone, and I pray there. And it's been a blessing to me. And I have also, I want you to know that so many people have prayed for the school district to be successful. We have churches and ministers who tell me all the time, we pray for you and pray for the children. I really appreciate that. I had people come in this office and just pray with me and pray for me. They would come in and anoint the office before I got here. People don't know these kind of things that happen up here, but all that has been a part of my success. And so I thank God for the opportunity. I thank the people of Gadsden County for giving me an opportunity. And it's just been a wonderful journey. I've had a whole lot more ups and downs. And so it's just been a blessed ride for me in terms of being superintendent. So we've had our challenges, and there are many profound moments along the way. We made a lot of changes because it was necessary in order to get to our goal. I started here. I think one of my profound moments was I had at the time, the team was in place. I had one of our team members come in to try to, I guess it was a way of trying to soften the blow or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I do remember they told me that, Superintendent, I don't want you to be disappointed if the students don't achieve the way you want them to. And that was a profound moment, because I'm just not the kind of guy who accepts failure. Failure is not an option with me. And so I do have high expectations. I had high expectations for the students, and I did believe that they can learn. And but that was something I have never ever forgotten, and I think it kind of motivated me indirectly. It motivated me to work hard to try to get it done. So that was a part of why I wanted to be superintendent. I wanted to make a difference. I'm a prideful Gadsden County, and I'm a Gadsden County from my heart. I grew up here in Gadsden County, and we've had when I grew up, we were thought to have the best students around. I came out of Carter Paramore, and we were also thought to have the best athletic programs. And that's another thing I was trying to build up, not only the academics, but I wanted to restore our pride in terms of our extracurricular activities, including our teams. And so I think I've made some headway in both directions. But that's who I am as a person, and that's why I really wanted to be superintendent. I thought I could make my community better. And in leaving, I don't think I was able to achieve everything that I wanted to achieve, but I think we made it a whole lot better than what I found it, and so that makes me feel better.
A lot of people probably are wondering or think, especially people that make decisions like you did to hold a political office, especially one with as much responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like commissioners, they're there for a few hours twice a month or whatever. Some of them only once a month.
Right.
This job, you got here every morning and you went home every evening,
right,
and you took it with you, and I know you did.
You have to take this job with you. Anybody that tells you that they don't is not true.
Yeah, when you're sitting, when you walked into this office
mm-hmm.
the first day, did you feel like you were ready for this particular position? Were you apprehensive, or did you walk in ready to take over?
I walked in ready to go. I really did. I was excited about it. I had planned, it was something I wanted to do. I had a plan and actually, a plan that I wanted to execute. And I feel if given an opportunity, if I could execute this plan, it would make a difference. And as I told you, the plan was called Building a Brighter Future, and it had within it data-driven instruction, building and changing culture. All that was a part of the plan. So I actually hit the ground running because, I had a big meeting and told the teachers what we were going to do, and we came up with the no excuses mantra because we needed to do that. Because when you have an organization that's failed as long as that one our organization had failed, we had no A or B schools. We had more F's than anything else. So you have to try to deal with that situation. So a part of my no excuses logo came out of our meeting in the conference room, and I would talk to our team at the time about what was going wrong, so on and so forth. And so usually I would get a lot of excuses like Mr. James, our kids come from these socioeconomic conditions and single parent house. They gave me a lot of reasons why, and I didn't want to really hear that. And so I wanted them to start focusing on what it is that we need to do to get it to happen, because poverty doesn't have anything. Poverty can play a factor, but it doesn't have anything to do with the kid's mind. They all can learn. Okay? And if you use single parent households, then I guess Barack Obama wouldn't have been president. So that can be a real factor. I mean, it could be a factor, but it's not a factor that's going to stop people from being successful. We have hundreds of thousands of people who've been successful, that come from broken homes. That's not a real factor. And so we had to try to get these excuses out of the way. And so that's why we came up with no excuses. It came out of the conference room and things that would tell me. I've always believed if given the opportunity, I could make my community better. And so I thank God and the people of Gadsden County for giving me an opportunity. And as I leave, I think I made it better. As I said, there's still work to be done. We've come a long ways, still got a long ways to go, but we've come a long ways from where we were. We've come a long ways from the 5 F's and the 43% graduation rate.
You mentioned uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
That has failed multiple times in other places.
Right.
What made you think it would work here?
Well, actually, I saw it fail here. I was an administrator on the team when a former superintendent actually tried to do that. And I learned from that experience. And I found out in order to do that, you actually couldn't do that from the boardroom. You have to do that from the community. So once I got to be superintendent, I used what I believe would be a successful methodology for implementing the program. So I went to every PTO meeting, and we shared with the parents there why we wanted to go to school uniforms. We had the colors. We even had kids model the uniforms that we had for that school within their school colors. And so we were able to convince the parents, who are the driving force, that if we go to school uniforms here, it would first and foremost, the research has shown that it reduces discipline incidents, it's cost effective, and those are two of the most important things we need to do, because I needed the kids not to focus on what they were wearing. Remember, I inherited 5 F's and 4 D's and no A's and no B's. So I need them to focus on, can we learn these various standards that we need to move the district forward. So that was the primary driving force of me wanting to do it. I needed them to refocus off of what they were wearing and focus on academics. So that basically helped us. But the key point was we went to the community, We asked the parents in the elementary and middle schools if we could do it. We actually tried to get the high schools too. I don't know if you know what happened.
I remember.
But what happened with the high schools, I don't think the letters were getting home. The kids were intercepting them. So I had this large meeting out of East Gadsden, and it was packed. And I never forget it. So I said, well, because they told me you have to have at least 70-some% of the parents to say, at least 75 to 80% of them to say, I'll do it in order to make it work. In other words, if you got a large percentage of the parents who are not with the program, in other words, if 50% of the kids come with uniforms on and 50% come without uniform, the next day, the 50% of the kids who didn't wear that wore their uniforms probably going to not wear their uniform. Yeah. So I need to have a large percentage. So I never could get the percentages up high enough in the high schools. We never could get more than, from the surveys we got back, we never could get more than about 50 or 60%. So I had a meeting, I never forget this, at East Gadsden. So it was packed. And I was trying to get the high schools in the uniforms. And so I asked the parents in the meeting, how many of the high school, I had the same presentation. I think they modeled the uniforms, and nice uniforms for high school. I think it might even had a blazer on one. But anyway, it was a nice display. And so when we asked for the vote, only about 50% of the parents raised their hand for it. I don't know if the high school students were holding mama's hand down or whatever, but I think the high school kids had more influence on their parents than I actually thought in terms of them not wearing uniforms. So that's why we never got them in the high schools. People ask me all the time, so why don't you have the high school wearing uniform? It's not my decision. It's the parents' decision. If the parents want the high school kids to wear uniforms, then I want them to wear uniforms. But at the time I surveyed them and had a meeting, I couldn't get more than 50% of the parents in the high schools to say they wanted uniforms, and I knew that was not a successful number. But I think one of the profound moments in my career was, I think, the first day that when they came back to school in uniforms, I never will forget it. I actually pulled up on the hill at George Monroe. And when I pulled up, I saw a sea of red. And that was a great feeling. I mean, I said, wow, that's fantastic. It made me feel like, we had really overcome that hurdle in terms of getting the kids in uniforms. And I think now it's become very popular for kids. I see the kids on Facebook and everywhere, parents with the, kids with the uniforms. And everybody has their own logos. I mean, it's with their own school colors. So I think it's very successful, and it helped our kids.
Do you think that it brought some of that pride you were looking back?
Mm-hmm. I think it did. Absolutely. And it helped them focus on academics instead of what they were wearing. And that's the most important thing. I didn't want our kid, I wanted to level the playing field in terms of, I wanted this to be about academics and not what each person was wearing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have had this conversation multiple times, and you have consistently fought the battle of FCAT as far as getting out there and making sure that your students understood and could pass the test.
Right.
Behind the scenes, you have had some issues with it, but you've never been out in the front saying FCAT's a bad thing. You work within the very system that you were dealt with. Tell me a little bit about how you feel about that.
It's just a philosophy. I mean, I always tell people that we don't, here in the district, we don't make the rules. We just have to understand how to play the game. I can't change FCAT. I mean, I don't have the power to do that. At the time it's FCAT, it's Florida standards now assessment. But, at the time when the FCAT came in, I may not have agreed with everything about the test, but I could not change the fact that we were going to take the test. And I didn't want to waste any energy or have my administrators or teachers waste any energy trying to figure out, talking about it rather than trying to figure out how to pass it. So that's just a waste of energy. All right. I mean, I feel that certainly FCAT provided some challenges to the kids that I didn't agree with, but I couldn't change that because I'm not the governor, I'm not the legislature. So I had to figure out how to deal with the situation. That's all it was. I mean, it just was to me, it was a waste of energy for me to focus on that. We need to spend all of our energy on trying to help our kids overcome this barrier.
And they did.
And they did. Now they've changed it. And I think, really.
But it's the same process.
And one of the things that I said to myself, sometimes you wonder, I think the first time one of the things that I always wanted to see happen to our district. I wanted to, and Lord let me see this, and that's just such a blessing. I said, well, I want my county, my kids to one day lead in something in the Big Bend. I wanted it to happen. I think it happened maybe in 2009. It was writing, and I think it came on that Gadsden County students led the Big Bend in writing. Oh, I thought it was fantastic. Then I think we led again in 2011. We led the district in writing. Then they changed the writing. I said, well, why they change the writing? Because our kids was number one or whatever. But they changed. I'm sure
they accomplished what they needed to accomplish very well.
Right.
And who was responsible for that?
The teachers. No question about it. The teachers and administrators are the ones who were basically responsible for that happening. And the kids, they made a difference in trying to get it done. But I think that was a very proud moment. My wife and I were sitting in front of the television when that came on, and it's very proud. And then it happened time and time again. I mean, we led the Big Bend in third grade math for 2 successive years. I mean, the last couple of years before they got rid of FCAT. I think in 2014 we were like number one in the Big Bend, third highest in the state. Those are the kind of things you never forget. You never forget that. And there's been a lot of memorable moments that people thought that these kids could not do, but I never thought they couldn't do it. I always felt that we could. I've always known that it was in us to do it.
I think you proved that point.
Yeah, it's in us.
I think that's one of your major accomplishments.
We're excited.
That you're not probably going to admit to, but I not want to pat yourself on the back. Along the way, there's been some people that you probably would really like to thank. Who would they be?
First and foremost, I want to thank the teachers, because I think they have been just. I started out as a teacher. I tell people all the time, I'm a teacher at heart. And you can't really pay the teachers enough for what they do. And teaching it's a profession you have to love to do it. And once you get in with the kids, they're like your kids, and you have to teach them like they're yours. And so I understand teaching because I taught for a long time. So I thank them. I want to give a thank you to the faith-based community, because they're one of the first groups that I met with when I got this job. We had a big meeting out in New Bethel, and I talked with them about the fact that I needed their help. And I needed their help because at the time, we needed to certainly rally around our students, and basically I wanted the ministers to help me raise the importance of education with their congregation and in the community. And they've done an excellent job at that. Not only do they do that, but they come out and volunteer. They have given clothes. They've started clothes closets in the churches where the kids who didn't have uniforms have purchased them for them. The faith-based community has been a key part of my success, and I know they prayed for me. I don't know how many of them tell me all the time, Superintendent, we pray for you and the students every day. And I want to make sure I thank them for everything they've done for me and the students of Gadsden County. I cannot say that enough. I think our businesses have been very supportive. The ones I can't ever remember asking any business for something that they didn't give me. Certainly the administrators have been tremendous. Our support staff, the bus drivers, everybody. I think one of the more moving moments in my superintendency was riding on the bus one morning with one of the bus drivers and watching them pick up kids, and it had a profound effect on me because the mothers and parents stand out, just before dawn with the kids and let you know that the parents want the best with their kids. Just stand in the dark with them sometimes, and they're saying, so that lets you know that they're sending you the best that they have, and they want the best for their kids, and so it just moves you to want to do the very best that you can. And the kids are just so wonderful. Someone said, "What will you miss when you're going?" I'm gonna miss the children, and the things that they say to you, and so I tell people that in this job, the kids, you are like a hero to the children, and you have to understand it's bigger than just an educational leader. You are a role model to the children. And sometimes when Betty and I go into the grocery stores and whatever, the kids come up and they'll talk to me and they'll talk to her. You got to always remember that you're a role model for the children. You have to live your life and conduct yourself and understand that you're more than just a superintendent. You're a role model for the children. Like the little boy who said, I know you kindergarten and say, "You, Mr. James Obama." I thought that was cute. You know, he had it partially right, but he knew I was somebody special to him, and so I gave him a hug. And so you got to understand that you're special to the children, and that's the most important part. And now that I've been here so long, virtually all the children know who I am. I could be in Walmart, I could be in Winn-Dixie, and they'll come up and talk to me. That makes this job special because you are a hero and a role model to the children. That's the part you got to keep in mind.
Okay.
Have been tremendous. From the very beginning when I started, I had all these ideas about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to make it better. They joined in with me, and they've just been so supportive, and they deserve a lot of credit for supporting my vision of what I wanted this district to be. And so I cannot forget what they have done in their support in making this what it is. I mean, so they are a vital part of the achievement here.
This is a question that a lot of people get asked when they leave something, and I can't. I'm going to ask you. How would you like for your tenure as superintendent to be remembered?
I like to be remembered as a guy who loved children and who tried to make his community better, and who gave it his very best. I mean, for 11 hard years, who's really tried to show the world that the kids of Gadsden County could produce or could learn at a level that maybe some of them thought they couldn't. And I think we've been able to prove that. I think just a mere fact that we produced 5 A's a number of times, and our third graders have led the Big Bend and been near the top of the state in math. So I think now people know that the kids of Gadsden County can do. And certainly there's a lot more to be achieved, and maybe the next person who comes can take it even higher. But I want them to remember me as a guy who maybe turned the corner for the district.
Is there anybody else that you would like to thank for helping you accomplish this goal?
Yeah, most importantly, my family, in particular my wife, because when you were in public office, your wife is a vital part of that, because you're always going and doing, and she's always been immensely supportive of me. We married when we were just teenagers, and so it's been a tremendous journey, and I've always been one of these kind of guys who was always doing things, and she's always been there for me. So my wife has been just a Trojan. I mean, she's been outstanding in her support for me and my vision of what I wanted to do in my life, period. I mean, I cannot thank my wife enough. And, it all takes a toll on everybody, the kids. It's just been a tremendous journey. My family's been awfully supportive. And so, in particular, my wife, and I thank her so much for what she's done.
One last question.
Okay.
If you have any, are there any regrets that you have that you didn't accomplish something?
Well, you never feel you accomplished everything that you wanted to accomplish. And I don't know if I'm the kind of guy that if there were 8 A's, it probably wouldn't be enough for me. So I know who I am as a person. So I don't know if I have any serious regrets.